Tomorrow we're going to put on the show. We got a lot in common. Treasured history,
and here comes Carter,
all-star player,
great speed, intercepted,
no names. We are ready. We're fast, aggressive, and we're hungry. Ready to make our mark.
Saquon Barkley all the way to the end zone.
Down he goes, aimed the win.
The power.
Touchdown, Penn State. Todd Taylor fumbles the football.
William Clifford.
Sacked by Abdul Carter.
Katron Allen walks in almost.
Met in the backfield by Tony Rojas. Touchdown, Nittany Lions.
Intercepted.
All eyes on the City of Angels. Tomorrow we're going to show them who we are.
And we're 2.5 hours live from kickoff. That'll be a 12:30 kickoff on Western time, 3:30 if you're on the East Coast looking to tune in. We got a ton to break down in this show here today between AP rankings, some upsets that happened inside of college football this week. This will be Penn State's longest travel this season. Their last matchup out there in LA was our 2016 team, which I did happen to be on, that iconic Rose Bowl that a lot of you guys have watched. Ton to get into the show, man. How are we feeling today, Hack?
I'm feeling great. I'll tell you what, Zane Durant couldn't have picked a better guy to highlight the intro video there. He's having a heck of a season, and I like his focus, laser focus. And the point he brought up, battle of no names on the jersey. So I'm fired up for this one. This has been a long time coming. Had a good start to the season so far, obviously sitting at undefeated, but this was the meat of the season that I really was looking forward to. The matchups, rosters, tradition. This is when it starts getting fun.
Absolutely. I would hate to be in front of Zane Durant trying to block that guy at the 3 technique. I'll tell you that. Let's get a recap of this UCLA game. For those of you guys who missed it last week, we got a nice video for you here.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Penn State. Beautiful day here in Happy Valley. Sun is shining. Penn State, UCLA, a series that dates back to a 1963 meeting here in State College.
Put your helmets on, strap up. If you're in this room, I demand that you lock arms right now. We are all we got, and we're all we need. There's a faceless opponent across that sideline. They don't matter, because it's all about us. It's time to take the next step. Our time is not now. Our time is right now. We are.
4th down and 1. Hands it off. Looking for the first down, and they won't get it. Over the middle. Caught. Beautiful throw and grab lead. Clifford. Aller again to throw it. Again to the sideline. You got an offensive lineman in motion. 3rd down and goal to the 1. Here's the brotherly shove. And he'll get in. Touchdown, Penn State. This UCLA offensive line playing much better today. And Martin hit as he throws. Guess who? Bernard. Dennis Sutton scrambling. Martin, Chase, and lose yards on the play. Dennis Sutton trying to gobble him up once again. Nittany Lions ready to get it again. Aller over the middle. Caught. Beautiful. What a play. Drew Aller finding his rhythm. Brings it down. Finds his man. Here's Wallace. Turns it up. Aller. Back foot throw. Caught. Tyler Ward. Touchdown. And that gives the Nittany Lions a 14-3 lead.
Let's go. Bring it up.
Hey, opening drive on both sides of the ball is critical.
It's game over. You understand me? That's our mindset. Take this game over.
First down and 10 to the 19-yard line. As soon as he touches the football, what a player. Penn State's defense just converges on Carter's jaw. And trouble, pressure, loose ball. Justin Martin sacked once again. Katron Allen picking his way forward. The shovel play, Tyler Warren. Brian Barker comes in to attempt the field goal. And he got it. Perfect. Martin drops it off. Abdul Carter was there. Trying to plant, and he'll be sacked again. Allen, sideline throw. Trey Wallace. Allen on the move. Caught. Fleming. They say he's down inside the 1-yard line. First down and goal at the 1. Katron Allen walks in almost. James Franklin and the Nittany Lions improved their record to 5-0.
A very gritty win here in Beaver Stadium last week. You saw our guys took care of business, man. I just want to take a second to just address the fans. I feel like we're getting a little bit spoiled here, man. We're sitting at 5-0. It ain't always going to look sexy. You know, we got to win. We did what we needed to do. And there's a ton of teams just last week that I promise you wish they came out with a win that they didn't come out with. So I just want to put that out there.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. However, I will sit on this still on the other side of the fence that heading into that matchup, I was expecting a lot more out of the team in terms of the performance, the way we would have won. With that being said, though, you bring up a great point. I don't know if there was something in the air, something in the water, but across the landscape of college football, you saw some giants fall, and that's kind of my takeaway from the game. Right after, I was a little just, like that's the best way I can put it.
100%.
Like,
I think we both felt that
and
way.
then as the day progressed and you saw Bama go down, and you start seeing the names that dropped. It was a few more beers went down. I was like, you know what? I'll take it.
Very thankful to say the least.
Yeah,
Let's just leave it at that, man.
Without a doubt.
Very, very thankful that at the end of the day, we came out with a win. And we know as players, you know, and that's what makes Penn State so special is, you know, there's an expectation level here of not just winning, but how we win, especially against opponents that the fans feel like we should really dominate. And I think that's what makes this place so special because those expectations are important as players. And that's what motivates us to be the best players we can be, to fill our roles on our teams to the best of our abilities and things of that nature. So we also appreciate that level of scrutiny, that level of interest in how the game goes from the fan perspective.
You know, I think to that point, Coach Franklin's talked on multiple occasions over the course of his tenure here about taking that next step, being good, being great to elite, right? And I think it's only fair that when you do make those statements publicly, as a fan base, you start looking at the elite programs. And what do the elite programs do for the most part, week in, week out? They win how they don't only just win, they win how they should. And they look in introspectively. So in a way, when you set that standard, you have to live up to it. And that's my outlook on it, just as a former letterman. When I'm watching the team, when I watch how we recruit, when I watch how we build facilities and give them resources and all these things, I'm going to hold them to a higher standard. It just means a little bit more, in my opinion. And it's not only just my personal thought process, but Coach Franklin's been extremely vocal about it. So, again, I kind of give him a pass for last week, but been really impressed up until this point with what this team's been able to do, how they've been able to do it, and a lot of change, but being able to overcome all those obstacles and ultimately put a great product on the field.
Absolutely. And big gain for our Nittany Lions today. It's the longest travel of the year. The boys are headed out to LA. We've got Brian Tripp, who is down there on the field for us to kind of handle our field trip report. What's up, Brian?
That's fine. That's fine. I got it.
I was super impressed with the way that the trip came together. The practice yesterday was really good. The guys seem locked in, and then they'll get to the stadium here in about 10-15 minutes.
I'll tell you what, trying to figure out how to get your audio in at the beginning of this from across country was a little bit of an obstacle there. But hey, we'll overcome that, and that's I think hopefully the only effect that travel has on the Penn State crew.
There's a lot of fans here too. The hotel was really crowded. I think someone said they're thinking like a 70% USC fans today, but 30% Penn State fans. So a lot of fans made the trip out here, enjoy the nice weather, enjoy Cali for a couple days, and get out here for a 12:30 kickoff, and you have the rest of the afternoon, hopefully, to celebrate a big win.
We always travel well.
Yeah, I mean, I was about to say that's expected out of Nittany Nation, man. I mean, they don't label us a cult for no reason, right? I mean, we embrace it all day long, man.
It is. Heck, it is really cool though to sit here at the Coliseum, and I'm in the press box right now, and you look out, and there's kind of a morning fog this morning, so you have the Hollywood sign obscured, downtown's a little bit obscured off in the distance. But to be in Los Angeles and then to think that this is the reminder that it is a Big Ten game, that they have the B1G painted on the field. This is really cool for this to be a Big Ten game, and to see a program like USC and Penn State playing in a game that still has significant stakes, even though USC dropped 2 of their last 3, those tough road losses against Michigan and Minnesota.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of these traveling fans are some of the same fans that traveled for our Rose Bowl game back in 2016. Yep. I know I'm still feeling that bitter taste in my mouth from that defeat. It's one loss in my career, that to this day still pains me. So I know, today our boys are going to make up for it. And I'm sure a lot of those fans are hoping to see the other side of that coin by the end of today's game.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And I think that's the thought. Like, how many times do you get the opportunity to come to the Coliseum? The Olympic opening ceremonies are going to be here in a couple of years. There's so much history in this building, all the great teams that USC has had through the years. And you look at the retired numbers, and yes, Reggie Bush's number is back up, number 5 there in the end zone. But you look at all the retired numbers, the history of this venue, the history of these 2 programs, like Hack talked about, and Zane Durant, the no names, USC, the only program to never have a name on the back of the jersey, but they'll be in their Cardinals. Penn State will be in their whites. It's one of those classics. When you put on the TV and you see that classic tradition, the USC uniform and the Penn State uniform, this is one a lot of people have circled, and rightfully so. It did lose some of its luster because USC has lost those 2 games, falls out of the rankings. But, really, they're 1, 2 plays, 3 plays away from this being an unbeaten team versus an unbeaten team, and 2 top 10 teams today. I think this is a team that has a lot of talent at the skill positions. Obviously, Miller Moss has been really good at quarterback. The running back, Woody Marks, has been effective in the running game and the passing game. He's a threat in the passing game. What they have at wide receiver, probably 4 or 5 guys that can line up with anyone, and then getting their tight end McCree back today. It's a really talented offense that can score points. I know we'll get into breaking it down later. But this should be a good matchup, even though maybe on paper you don't have USC coming in as a top 10 team anymore.
That's a great point, Tripp. And I want to get to a few things, but you mentioned that at this point in the season, I don't think you can really even look at the records and use that as a metrics point for this game. I think you really have to look a little bit more intrinsically into the matchups, the coaching staff, the roster, the players. And it is by all intents and purposes, from that standard, a top 10 matchup and a really big game for both programs. With that being said, you may have introed it at the beginning, but I didn't get it. We talk about the travel. Everyone's mentioning, how much of an effect, but you did get to watch practice yesterday at SoFi. Yeah. How did the team get off? Did they look like they were crisp? Did they feel good? Because I think that there's some credit. There's a little bit of point of credit to that being potentially a factor in today's game. However, with that being said, I think a lot of it too is just staying in rhythm. I know Coach Franklin's really big about that. So how did the team look, at least on the field, jogging through, or whatever level of intensity practice was?
Yeah, as you know, Fridays are kind of lighter for them. It is a walkthrough and a practice of what's going to come up, just to get formations, alignments, plays, situational. It's not an intense practice, but I thought the guys looked crisp. And I know it kind of missed it at the beginning, but the team left on Thursday from State College at noon, bus to Harrisburg, flew from Harrisburg to here. And by the time we got to the hotel, it really was a 9-hour travel day to get out here. But yesterday morning, left the hotel around 10 a.m., went to SoFi. I thought the guys, number one, it was cool for them to be in that stadium. You know, Drew Aller was in Matthew Stafford's locker and Nick Singleton was in Cooper Kupp's locker because they were in the Rams locker room. But then I thought they looked good. I thought they looked really sharp out there. This is a team, it's a business trip. You know, when you guys go to those bowl games, the first couple of days are, okay, we're a mix of football and fun. Then we get into game mode. It almost feels like a bowl trip because you're coming so far across the country to a place you're not accustomed to playing regular season games. But I think they've been locked in from the second they got on that flight to the second they stepped off the plane, got into the hotel, and it has been very much business as usual. And it is the same hotel the team stayed at for the Rose Bowl 2 years ago against Utah, because there's that sense of familiarity and routine there. And we all know how much head coach James Franklin likes that familiarity and routine. And I think they've been locked in because they know what to expect here coming into this game.
Well, you guys heard it from Trip. The boys are locked in. They had a crisp practice. They're ready to go. Man, we're really excited to talk to you later, Trip, and really, really get into this matchup and this preview of this game. Right now, we're going to hop into the top 25, into some of these upsets. What a crazy, crazy week of college football. Talk transfer portal. Let's look at this top 25 and see. Up last week, OSU. I've seen 3 Big Ten teams in the top 4.
It's a great look. It's been a minute. You know, the SEC usually takes the crown for a lot of that, but I'll tell you what, position well. Unfortunately, though, these 3 teams are going to be beating up on each other. We got the Oregon-Ohio State matchup today, and then we at Penn State have Ohio State coming to town beginning of November. So there will be some battle of attrition there, survival of the fittest, but at least a really good look for the conference as a whole right now.
Indiana at 18, undefeated.
No
that may be a dark horse, but now not a whole lot of people are talking too much about Indiana. I mean, high potent offense. I mean, they've hung 40 points on I think 3 or 4 opponents already this year.
Well,
I'm gonna just put it out there.
Cignetti bringing a lot of guys from JMU. They had some success, and that's obviously a spot that's near and dear. I grew up about an hour south of JMU. Have a lot of respect for the Dukes down there. But I will say this: when you look at their schedule, I don't know if there's many Big Ten teams that would not be undefeated sitting in that position. I don't want to discredit them too much. Great job, great transition. You know, you come in, you're trying to revive a program that has had some success, or at least some bright points in the last few years. But being able to bring that standard back quickly is a tip of the cap to Cignetti.
I think that's just a tip of the cap of that athletic director doing a great job, man. When you talk schedule and stuff of that nature, I mean, hey, that's all part of the job, man. So, I mean, I love that.
Set your boys up for success.
Exactly. That's what they're supposed to do, man. Let's get into the talk, what everybody was talking this week, and that's Vandy, Alabama. Vanderbilt, for the first time in history, be a team in the top 5 in the AP top 5.
Yeah, first time
they were
number 1 overall.
0-60. I think the last time they beat Alabama, I believe, was in the 60s.
Might have been. Have to fact check that with Jake, but I think it's been a long time ago.
Long time. These kids came on the field and literally took the goalpost. I mean, let's take a look at this game. I mean, Vandy just came out. I mean, pick 6. They're down 14-0. I've never seen Alabama flustered like this, especially not against an opponent like Vanderbilt.
No, and the point to be made here is this wasn't a fluke. I mean, they went out there and hung 40 on Alabama. They turned it into a boat race. And specifically speaking, this Vanderbilt team, we talked about them getting that win against Virginia Tech earlier in the season to open it off. This isn't a bad Vanderbilt team, and this may be getting a little bit ahead of our skis here, but we talked about the impact of the transfer portal and NIL, but I think more so the transfer portal in college sports today. You can really flip a program around quickly. And for Vanderbilt to be able to come out here and put this type of product on the field, beat an Alabama team that was coming off of some highs earlier in the season with the win against Georgia. Tip of the cap to that crew down there and just buckling down, getting it done at home. Stadium, I think, is still maybe under construction. And now, thanks to these students, these good students down there in Nashville, there's a little bit more construction that needs to get done with this goalpost that got just hiked like the Egyptians building the pyramid down to the river. and cut up and hopefully sold to cover these fines, because that's always not fun.
And let's not get it twisted. Like, these goalposts are heavy. This isn't some like little thing you can just screw out of the ground and start walking around with. Like, this took some serious teamwork and coordination. I mean, you see the formation going down the streets there in Vanderbilt. I mean, what excitement. Like, that's what college football is all about. And I think the coolest thing about that game is, like, it's not like Vandy just went out there and whooped them. Like, yeah, they were up, but like Alabama came back. And in games like that, a team like Vanderbilt would normally lose their poise, allow Bama to come all the way back, and then, Bama kind of runs away with the game. And, we had that little first half scare, but, we pulled away. But, like, nah, Vanderbilt came up. The game got close. They just kept on pounding them, kept throwing haymakers. I mean, they truly believed that they were going to win this game from the start.
They beat them. And the guys had that goalpost. They had a police escort there, I think. that was impressive. These guys.
And we talked about, we talked about the transfer portal. And I think right now, this is the coolest parallel between college football and college basketball to me, because on any given year, any team can come up. You see the transfer portal. We got 3 transfer portal guys who had huge production. I mean, if they don't have these 3 players, they most likely don't win this game.
Yeah, not a ball game. And that's what I was getting at my point. This transfer portal thing, a lot of people talk about NIL, but I think more so it is the transfer portal. It's the ability now to not only make money, but then be able to market yourself in an unrestricted free agency type of market year in, year out, and ultimately go and find a place that's going to pay you for. It's not supposed to be for your production on the field, but for your production, and we're able to ultimately turn the tide for that game, no pun intended, into Vandy's favor and get it done. But hats off to them. And like I said, just overall, that whole week of college football was crazy. You had Tennessee go down, SC went down, Missouri went down.
Yep.
So there was, I'm sure I'm missing another one there, but there was a lot that ultimately opened the door for our boys to slip in there at 4. And I think that's why you see that cluster up at the top of Big Ten teams.
Yeah. I mean, you see a team like Vandy who's normally at the bottom SEC, and it just tells you, like, just how close the margin of error is in these conferences. Like, a team that maybe goes 0-5 compared to the 5-0 team in that conference, like, there's not that big of a difference. It's just some teams can be 2 or 3 playmakers away from really flipping the script and what we know as in today's college football, and who the best is and who isn't the best.
Yeah, you're right. In today's game, I think back when we were playing, there was a little bit more of a dispersion, because the guys at the top were able to sell that, hey, come in here, bide your time, develop in a great program that's ultimately going to prepare you for the next level and all of those things. But I think, again, with the combination of the transfer portal and NIL, you're now seeing folks want to play and get their value for their play earlier. And that's resulted in a disbursement of talent, I think, across the board. Where there's opportunity to play, you're going to see folks who think they deserve a chance go and ultimately take advantage of it. And it's just making it for an extremely competitive college football. I mean, look at the Big 12 right now. No one wants to win that dang thing. Utah goes down. Utah goes down last night to Arizona State. But it's just been such an ebb and flow. And I love it, because, to your point, it makes it more of like an NFL game, right? Where at the end of the day, those are the 32 best programs, best talent in the world in the game combined. And people are like, what's the difference between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Carolina Panthers? And realistically speaking, it comes down to execution, coaching, and a little bit of belief. And when teams get that going, hey, anything can happen. So it's cool to see that kind of infiltrating into the college game now.
Yeah, and that's the reason why I make that parallel to college basketball, is just because, like, even from a fan's perspective, the way they look at the game, I know for me, like, when I watch college basketball, like, seeing a player like Zion Williamson, like Carmelo Anthony, like, I always followed players when it came to college basketball, because, like, I cared more about the players, and the landscape was changing so much. Every team was different every single year. And now you're starting to see that in college football as well. The Ashton Jean tees, a guy like Caleb Williams who has a crazy year, where, like, the fans are now looking a lot more at player brands than they are even school brands at certain points from a fandom perspective. So I think that's a really cool shift that we're starting to see in sports and in the college, sports world in general. And one last game that we have that also has a big implication tonight, Oregon OSU. We were just talking about 2, 3, 4 being Oregon, PSU, and Penn State. I mean, Oregon, Penn State, and Ohio State. These 2 teams are going to be facing each other today Huge matchup, huge implications, obviously. What do you think happens in this game?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's super interesting, right? You know, not only is it national, I think the national scale implications, but when you peel it back to the Big Ten, you have Ohio State. Let's say they go out and beat Oregon, and then Oregon runs the table. And let's say Ohio State comes in here and beats Penn State, and then Penn State runs the table. You're going to have an undefeated Ohio State runs the table. Obviously, there's a lot of hypotheticals in this one. Just bear with me here. Keep tracking, folks. But you have an 11-1 Penn State, you have an 11-1 Oregon, and you have a 12-0 Ohio State. And the only loss that both of those teams have is Ohio State. That's going to present some issues for the Big Ten. I'm sure that there's some type of metric or scoring thing or schedule. API, strength of schedule, or whatever that's going to go into it. But then that plays into seeding, right? Someone's going to have an opportunity to then potentially go and get Ohio State back, playing the same team twice. You know how hard that is in a year. It's hard to game plan for the same team twice and beat them twice. It could shake up a lot of things. And I think that's a very interesting conversation to have at this point in the season.
Yeah, it definitely will. Howard, I mean, two really good teams. It's a toss-up.
I'm excited about it.
It can go either way.
I'm excited about it. I mean, I think Oregon hasn't played to their capabilities defensively. And, Dan Lanning being a defensive guy, that's probably something that he's taken to heart and I think has probably really put an emphasis on here at practice for the past few weeks. Offensively, they've been rolling, like you said, Dylan Gabriel. I mean, the guy's like the Joe Flacco of college sports. He just comes in, he's like, pops up at a different school every year and somehow is a Heisman contender, but a great player. And taking advantage of that NIL money for sure.
Yeah.
But he, I really, first big test for Ohio State. Are they this super team that's been assembled as they've been portrayed? Can they put it all together against like talent? And then I think just this Oregon team, I think that they've just been kind of working in the shadows up there, staying quiet. And I think it's going to be a monumental matchup. And again, dictate a lot of the direction of not only the Big Ten, but also college football playoff seeding.
It'll definitely be a big one to watch. Tonight's game or this game that we have coming up, Penn State, USC, obviously going to be a huge one. I really want to get into this USC offense and talk about just what challenge Penn State has. And I really want to get into Lincoln Riley's offense because that's really what this is. Lincoln Riley's offense has always had a ton of comparisons to the air raid offense. And I think I love the comparison, but I think it has some stark differences in the fact that I believe that Lincoln Riley's offense still has a true commitment to the run game. A ton of gap scheme, a ton of pullers. They love to manipulate the linebackers with pullers and create space in between the second and third levels of the defense. When it comes to the passing routes, they always have routes on all three levels when it comes to the concepts, things of that nature. And also the quarterback run is normally a staple of the offense as well. He's had quarterbacks like Caleb Williams, Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, Spencer Rattler, who will be starting this Sunday, Jalen Hurts. Miller Moss isn't as much as a run staple quarterback kind of guy, as a dual threat in that sense, but they still do it. And it's been a staple of his offense. So I really want to go ahead and get into this film and break down what this Penn State defense is going to be going up against. You see this here. With the linebacker, could have success in the run game. It's going to keep them moving and flying up the field all day long as you see Woody March there go and get a big first down for this USC offense. And you'll see in this next play just how it creates more space. Okay, we have another tackle pull. Now we got a deep ball throw down the sideline here. And the linebackers, every single time they're seeing pullers come up, they're coming up to the line of scrimmage, and this creates opportunities. They have big playmakers at receiver. This will be a big skill versus skill game. And how can Penn State run with these receivers? Penn State loves man-to-man coverage. We'll play some split safety as well, but the man is going to be the guy to have it plays this year. And then here's a quarterback run that I talked about earlier. Miller Moss doesn't do it a ton, but the dude can move. He's still athletic. He's not your statue quarterback in the pocket. He can extend plays. He can make plays with the legs. And this is an example of it here. This has always been a staple in Lincoln Riley's offense with even deadlier quarterbacks from a dual threat perspective. And then lastly here, are we going to run it one more time? Okay. Miller goes, gets the first down. I mean, he's making some moves.
That's a good little wiggle there.
Yeah, he's got a little bit of wiggle. He's not this statue guy. And then here's a great example of just how they have routes on all levels. You see two dig routes coming across the field, two guys in the flats with the running back and the tight end chipping, get to the flat, and then one guy over the top. And they've always had skill positions that can take the top of the defense. So this is a very challenging offense for this Penn State defense to go up against. They're going to have to contain the run game. They're going to have to be disciplined in seeing when it's run and when it's passed, because that play action can get really, really confusing with the amount of pullers that they use. So this is going to be a great challenge for this defense, and probably the best offense that we've seen so far this year.
It's a great point. I think your point about matchups, right? I've said this for an extremely long time. It was one of the first things Bill O'Brien, when I got on campus up here, told me is offensive football can be as sophisticated as you want to make it. But at the end of the day, it comes down to three things: numbers, leverage, and matchups. Matchups is a great point to hammer home, and I like to always do that. That's a great point by you, Jay. Flipping it over, listen, I respect all that, love it. What I want to really put an emphasis on, I've been giving a ton of credit to Drew and been doing a lot of Drew breakdowns, gave a little Tyler Warren there. But I really want to start talking about just this run game and the ability for us to mix it up from a presentation standpoint, and why that this offense has been not only one of the most explosive run games, but also one of the most efficient run games. So let's run this tape and talk through it. So here, creative, right? This is a clip that's been blasted on all social medias and ESPN and so forth and so on. But being able to get pre-snap motion with different folks and really an offensive lineman doing what he's supposed to be doing. I love this scheme. I love this part of our wrinkle in our run game. Getting big boys on hats, on a move, being able to create more space. There's always something to it. And the one thing I want to bring to point, people talk about the shifts and motions and all these things, but Andy Kaltenecki is very rarely do we run a run play from a stagnant position. But he's not just doing it for window dressing. There's a purpose behind it. You see the tight end leak into the flat here. There's a complete option for Drew to pull this out and kick it out. And this is the old triple option. You're forcing the defense to play very, very sound football and take advantage of their athletes trying to be too athletic in space, right? They can't be free cowboying it all the time. They have to play their assignments. They have to be very disciplined with their eyes. Otherwise, this offensive and run attack's going to make you pay for it, whether it be with the run game or being able to kick it out in the flats and throw off of that. But listen, man, I can't talk about how Andy Kaltenecki has not only built this offensive scheme, but also continued to add wrinkles that are the next step and next evolution off of these concepts. And a lot of it has to do with his unique personnel groupings and his unique motions in the run game.
Yeah, and you talk about our success on offense that our run game has had. Not a lot of offenses have had success in the run game against our defense, and a lot of that is because of Jay Reed and Zakee Wheatley, our two safeties, who have just been doing such a good job when it has gotten to the second level of limiting the explosive plays in the run game. We have Anthony Poindexter, our safeties coach, who got to sit down with Brian Tripp inside the facility and kind of talk about Jay Reed and Wheatley. And I'll tell you what, Jay Reed is probably my favorite player on the defense right now. So I love this video and these stuff that these guys are doing on a weekly basis.
All right, let's break down the safeties with Coach Anthony Poindexter. And this is a group that has so much talent, and we've definitely seen the way the defense utilizes that talent, getting as many as 3 safeties on the field at a time this year. What's impressed you so far?
Well, obviously we got 2 older guys, Jay Reed and Zakee Wheatley. They just doing a great job. They played a lot of football. They played a lot of football together. They really doing a good job of just playing off each other, and they didn't see most of the offenses that we playing. So, they just know what to do, and they're playing fast and having fun.
You mentioned Jalen Reed. We're watching him right here at the line of scrimmage. He's so comfortable getting after the quarterback, those blitz situations, really utilizing his skill set at the line of scrimmage so far this season, up in the box.
Well, this is something that, me as a coach, I would like to take credit for, but he really just been working on this since he since he arrived here at Penn State. He really had a knack for blitzing. He really wants to do it. He really want to get after the quarterback, and he have a unique skill set. So credit to him for just working at it.
What is it about his skill set that makes him, number one, he's really good in coverage as a safety, but he can play really anywhere on the field. What is it about that skill set for him?
Well, I just think when you look at his body, he's a little bit thicker than, like you would say, man, he can't probably play man, but he's fast. He can run. He got explosion. He learned how to play, solid man-to-man coverage. He can play in the deep half, deep post. and obviously, you know, he can play close to the line of scrimmage. So he has a very unique skill set that a lot of safeties don't have, and, you know, I'm just lucky that happened.
He's got that physicality, too. It reminds me of a defensive back from Virginia maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago. That guy's pretty good, too.
Oh, yeah. He a lot better athlete than I ever thought about being. But, you know, he got a toughness to him. He got an intensity to him. He got a purpose about what he's trying to get done with his career and with his game and with this team. So, you know, he's been like that ever since he's been here, you know. But, you know, the growth in him from first year to now is big, but it's all due to just his hard work and his dedication to, you know, becoming the player he's becoming.
Zachy Wheatley came in here with the reputation as a ball hawk, and he continues to do that. This play here against Bowling Green, just great underneath and bat that ball down.
Yeah, Zach, he has a unique skill set. He's long, he's athletic. He really just know where the ball coming out, and he know how to track the ball, and he's really come a long way. Now that he can really learn, you know, not only just what the defense asking of him, but what the offense trying to do within each defense. You can watch his game just, you know, elevate, and he loves playing. He has a good time playing. It's like a kid's game to him, and, you know, he got a free spirit when he play, and, you know, you're starting to see it on tape.
There he is matched up against a slot receiver. Here he's playing center field. What's his read on this play?
Well, he's just reading off the quarterback, and you know he got to get depth, try to play up over the top, help where needed, and he made a great break. And obviously, you can see his ball skills. He lay out for it and come up with a big play at a big time in the game. He's doing a good job of coming along each day. You know, we got a lot of younger guys in the room that's coming along, and you know we got to try to build some depth. You know, it's a long season. You know, you want to keep everybody healthy, so we got to build some depth to try to start getting some of these other guys in the game.
Dex, really appreciate it. Safeties look great so far this season. Congrats on a great start to the year.
Appreciate you, brother.
It's awesome to hear from our safeties coach, Anthony Poindexter. I appreciate the humility from him, but let's not get it twisted, man. AP, when he played, was an absolute dog. He was a dog, and I can see it, you know, when I watch guys like Zachy and especially Jay Reed play. Like I said, I think Jay Reed's one of my favorite players on this defense. I mean, he's just such a chess piece that you can do so much with. You heard AP talk about it, whether it's putting him close to the line of scrimmage. He could drop back in the half. He's good enough at man coverage to keep him in man. So he's really a great piece that you can keep the offense true to what you want to do defensively.
Anecdotal point to your first comment there. Listen, my dad played at Virginia. I grew up just outside of Charlottesville. When I was a little kid, my dad we'd go up to the alumni lounge at the University of Virginia. We had season tickets, and I can't tell you how many hours I spent sitting in front of Anthony Poindexter's little locker, and they had a little button that would play highlights, and I would just watch Anthony Poindexter's highlights. I've told him that a bunch of times. He's known me since I was little, but he's a great player. But yes, to your point, I think you see a lot of his attitude in the players. Physical, not afraid to get involved in the run game. Jay Reed, like you said, I'm starting to get the same type of affinity for him and his game. He's disruptive. He's the type of guy you want to play with and play for. Really, as a guy that you're playing, you know, someone lined up with him, you want to play for that cat because he's always bringing some type of juice. He's playing with an extra step. He's playing with an extra gear.
Yep.
And it's good. It's good for our defense right now.
Just an absolute dog. DAWG. Let's pull up these stats of the defense and how this defense is playing with a whole lot of dog in them. 233 yards per game. I mean, that's outstanding. 2.5 yards per rush. I mean, that speaks to guys like Abdul, Zane Durant, Tony Rojas, Kobe King, Jay Reed. I mean, these guys are doing it together. A ton of production, a lot of disruption, 13 sacks, got 4 picks, 3 fumbles recovered. And I truly believe that turnover number is going to continue to go up. But from an identity standpoint, I mean, this is a team that loves playing man-to-man and is good enough and talented enough to defend the run in split safety and putting 7 in the box. And I just want to see them continue to grow in that because the man-to-man coverage has been great, but being able to have something to fall back on as a switch-up has been good for them, man. And obviously the blitz, putting pressure on the quarterback. They've been doing a ton of that this year. Jay Reed has been a great blitzing safety for us. So I'm really excited to see this defense and its identity continue to grow, but it's always going to start with that number right there, 2.5 yards per rush and keeping it there or below.
Yeah, I think that's a great point to hammer home. You know, just watching this defense for me, I've been a little curious to who they were going to be up into this point throughout the season. But you made a great point. With that 2.5 yards per rush, the ball is going to be in the air. You know, they were averaging almost 10 yards a play in pass plays, which is the only point that I would circle. Like, hey, you know, that's pretty explosive, relatively speaking.
Yeah.
You want to start seeing some more turnovers. And I think as we start getting into these more pass-happy teams, like today's matchup, there's a potential for some more interceptions to come into it. But when we're talking about offensive identity here, I can't think of a better graphic for balance. I mean, you're sitting here looking at this, almost 1,100 yards rushing, almost 1,200 yards passing, averaging 5.5 yards a carry. That's phenomenal. That travels, as I've said in the past, being able to run the football with that type of efficiency. And also Nick Singleton's explosion up into this point this season has been phenomenal with that. And Katron's really just been the steady Eddie type of guy. Damn near 12 touchdowns apiece on both sides of it. So when you really talk about what Andy Kaltenicki wants to be and how he wants to do things, he's obviously probably talked a lot about balance, as these statistics have shown, but then also now being able to build off of this. When you go into a game plan, Jay, like talk about trying to prepare for a team that can do things at these types of levels. What are you looking for? It's extremely hard.
I was just saying that, and I think that's what makes our offense so great. As a defense, when you go into a game, you're trying to make the offense one-dimensional. And that one dimension that you want them to have to be an expert in is normally their weakness. And right now, when you look at this offense, they're just so balanced. It's so hard to pinpoint what exactly is their weakness. What are they bad at? What do we want to force them to do? Those are really tough questions to ask when you're going into game planning for this Penn State offense. And I think that's what makes it so great. And then when you add in the personnel, the shifts, all the different things that you have to prepare for on a weekly basis, it makes it a very, very tough challenge for any defense that's coming to play this offense on a weekly basis.
Yep. Very tough task. Very tough task. Now, what I think everyone's been waiting for, let's go back to Tripp here out in Pasadena and start talking about this USC matchup.
Yeah, and the team just arrived here about 10, 15 minutes ago. Steve and Jack just got up here in the booth. We'll start our pregame at 11 o'clock after we're done here. But this is a matchup that I think comes down to Penn State, as you talked about. You can't identify a weakness right now. USC is certainly a team that has a lot of high-end talent, but where have they really struggled? They've really struggled at both tackle positions. And you look at Penn State's defensive line, Abdul Carter, Denai Dennis Sutton, and I think Zane Durant on the inside getting pressure up the middle at Miller Moss can make him, Christian, you can talk about this. Whenever as a quarterback, you have pressure coming up the middle at your feet, it makes you incredibly uncomfortable because you can't step up and climb up in that pocket. And, you know, we showed some highlights earlier about Moss and his ability maybe to extend plays and move. He is not, you know, that running quarterback that you guys were talking about that Lincoln Riley's had through the years compared to some of those other elements. So I think what Penn State, with their strength of that defensive line against USC's offensive line, is probably the key matchup where Penn State really has an advantage going in, because both teams certainly have talent and skill players, 4 or 5-star type recruits, but that USC offensive line struggled against Minnesota last week. They struggled against Michigan. And that's an advantage that Penn State definitely has there. And then the other side, we've talked about it too, the physicality with which Penn State's playing with on the offensive line. And you saw that last week in what you guys talked about. I think that against USC's defensive front seven, especially with Gentry, the linebacker, out for them. And he's a Philadelphia kid, probably their best tackle. They haven't tackled well. So you think of Penn State's run game plus their ability on the defensive front, I think the trenches is where Penn State has the advantage in this game.
That's a great point. And to talk about what you mentioned, Miller Moss is a great athlete. I don't want to discredit anything. He's not Kyler Murray, but he's a great athlete.
Yep.
And when you're talking about the formation of the pocket, being able to move up into the pocket is where you start seeing plays made more so than guys escaping out of the back of the pocket and around an edge, unless you're an elite runner like Lamar Jackson or Kyler Murray, because you're not going to outrun Abdul Carter sideline to sideline if you're a 4-7 guy. It's just not going to happen. Yep. But when you allow Miller to step up and not only make plays with his legs, but also extend the play for potential throws down the field, that's where you start getting a bunch of issues. And I think a guy, to your point, not only on the edges do we have an advantage, but the guy that brought us into this whole show, Zane Durant, and the way he's been playing in the middle can really collapse that pocket. It becomes suffocating. It's very, very hard to operate in a telephone booth, no matter who you are at that position. So that's a great point, Tripp, and probably could be the ultimate dictator of which way this football game goes, because pressure creates turnovers and all these other things. So definitely something to watch out for as a Penn State fan.
Yeah, and you also mentioned it, Trip, just the physicality of the teams that they've played in a Michigan, in a Minnesota. They've gone through some physical games in the Big Ten. That was one of our biggest questions about USC this season is how are they going to handle these very physical teams? Penn State is no different when it comes to that. I mean, this is a 3-2 team. They lost by a score each on the two losses that they have. But this is a dangerous team. This is a team that has their back against the wall. This could be a game that could be a season-defining loss as to whether they get into the playoffs or have the possibility to even get into the playoffs at this point in the season. So to me, this is not a game whatsoever that Penn State can sleep on. They're going to come out with their hair on fire. They're going to come out as if they've got nothing to lose. And those can be the toughest teams to deal with, is those teams that are doing nothing but want to knock you off of your pedestal. And I think they're going to do that or try to do that today.
Yeah, and they'll get McCree, the tight end, back today. I think when you look at the receivers, Hudson, Branch, Lemon, Robinson, they have a lot of guys. Penn State hasn't faced a skill position group like that. And then they'll also utilize the running back, Woody Marks, who's run the ball well. He transferred in from Mississippi State. But they'll use him a lot in the passing game as well. So Penn State, this is the first time they really have to match up with weapons, not only speed, but size on the outside and guys that can create explosive plays. If you're Penn State's defense, you want to make USC, tip your cap to them if they can go 10, 11, 12 plays and go down the field. But this is an offense that has the potential to make a big play in one play, and you can't allow them to change the game with their ability to create explosive plays offensively today because they're comfortable getting into a 40 to 34 type game. Those are the games they've played for the last 10, 15, 20 years in the in the Pac-10, Pac-12. Right. The Big Ten games, that Michigan game, 28-24. You're looking at the game last week, 24-17, 21-17. Those are the games where I think, that's the way I see this going, where Penn State can limit possessions, run the ball, and just out physical USC at the line of scrimmage.
Limit possessions. And the other point I want to make quickly before we get to our keys to the game is as a defense, you have to understand they're probably going to get something, right? Because of all the guys that you talked about. There's probably going to be an explosive play here and there. But how does that affect us? Because I don't think we've been punched in the face by massively explosive plays up into this point as a defense. So I'm really curious to see how we react when that does happen, because that is a little bit of a shock. And I'm sure Jason can elaborate on it, but we'll save that for another time. But that is a little bit of a shock, and it's a little deflating when that happens. But how do we react then thereafter? But let's get to our keys to the game here.
Yeah, and I'll start it off, and you kind of already alluded to it, and let's just talk about the explosive plays and to limit the explosive defense, where we've been allowing the ball to get caught in front of us and tackling on the catch. So tackling is going to be a big key to our game on defense. And then also just red zone production. Making sure that when they do get in the red zone, or if they do get in the red zone, that we're trading field goals and not touchdowns. That's going to be huge. So if we can limit that production when they get into the red zone, and then we can also limit the explosion, the big passes, the big runs, I think we're really going to like where we stand at the end of this game.
Yeah, and my two keys are probably some obvious ones, some talking points that have been in the media all week, but I really think we need to start fast on both sides of the ball, and that's oftentimes a really hard thing to put your finger on. What does that mean? I think it's just crispness in execution, and it ultimately kind of pinballs down to limiting explosive plays, tackling, the fundamentals of the game. Can we come out from the jump with a attention and focus to detail that we haven't had up until this point in the season? I think if we do that, we're going to put ourselves in a really good position to win this football game. And then secondly is Nick Singleton's return. We saw Katron carry the load against UCLA. Probably our most underwhelming performance from running the football. I think we had 90 yards or something like that. Yep. But didn't quite touch 100. Still had some efficient plays in there. But Nick Singleton has obviously been that home run threat for us. And being able to get him back healthy, operating again, and in the flow of things, really creating that two-headed monster, two different types of running styles, I think is going to bode well for us, being able to limit USC's possessions by possessing the football and moving the sticks and ultimately converting on those drives with touchdowns in the red zone.
Yeah, and Nick Singleton's return is going to be huge. That's our home run guy. Drew Allar looking to lead our team to 6-0 this week. Lincoln Riley's offense at home against our iconic Penn State defense that we've been known for years. So many great underlying storylines in this game. A lot of players to watch, a lot of cool things to keep attention to. Obviously, our fans are traveling. We already heard it from Trip. 30% of that stadium is going to be blue and white. So look out for our guys, man. We're really excited to watch this game. We're so thankful for you guys being here and tuning into the pregame show. We'll be out and we'll be back with our postgame show about an hour after the game. Thank you guys so much. And this is the Penn State pregame show. We're out of here.